Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? That was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
Wow, dude.
Yes.
It was a G.I. Jane joke.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
I'm going to, okay? Okay.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Joe Vore Podcast, Way She Goes Podcast Network. We are here with very special guest, my good friend, Oscars legend. And now I think I'm just going to go ahead. I didn't tell him ahead of time. You're my one tie to the Oscars, my first Oscars tie that have been on the show. So now you're the entertainment correspondent for the show. You've just been awarded that. So that's amazing. Good friend, Harrison Benedict. Welcome to the show.
Here at the Joe Vore Podcast, we are honored to be presented by Step One Underwear. Let me just say this. You do not become the world's most prolific Uber driver and podcast host without being cool and comfortable. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description below, grab yourself a pair, and discover a whole new life of comfort and style. Enjoy the show.
Awesome. It's so good to be here. I was telling Joey earlier, I've been watching this podcast ever since it came out. So honored to be invited.
Oh, well, it's an honor to have you on, man. And this is big stuff. So I want to talk about some, Oscar stuff in general, because you've been lucky enough to attend this, a couple of times now, but we just have to start and get this out of the way. Now, I know we want to protect your status. We don't want to keep you from being able to go back, but we have to talk about the Will Smith slap, because you were in the building on Sunday.
It was
for the Will Smith debacle. So tell me, when this went down, where were you sitting? Your initial reaction? Were you by anybody notable, or just were there any, did you hear any whispers, any murmuring? Just what was it like being in the building for that?
Sweet. Yeah, let's dive in. So to give a backstory, I got to be seat filler this year. And so the way I've started describing it is it's a very non-glamorous job in an extremely glamorous venue. And
it's like being an extra in a movie. It's like, oh God, there's Bruce Willis, but I'm laying dead in the background.
Yeah, it's like I had this experience one time. It's like getting invited to a wedding, but you're in the very back. And you're like, I'm lucky to be here. There's like a pole in my way. I can barely see the stage, but I'm here. And so it's that type of vibe. So I'm just bouncing around all night long, taking empty seats, depending on any stars that left. Sometimes it's lucky. Sometimes I'm towards the front of the stage. Sometimes I'm in the back. It's all in the first level though. So wherever I'm at, I have a pretty good view of the stage.
Oh, okay. So they don't worry about the top because that's not on TV.
Nope. There's no balconies. So I'm always on the ground level,
okay. Cool.
Close to the stage. Yeah. And so for the slap, I was not, there's these lounge chairs in the front this year. I was not in the lounge chairs for the slap. I was in the seats behind it. And I was in the back right. I was actually sitting next to Regina Hall's aunt.
Oh, wow.
Which is funny because she was one of the hosts. And the second that Chris Rock said that joke, there were some laughs, and then it kind of clicked and everybody was like, oh. And there's a lot of jokes like that. But as soon as Will Smith got up and started walking towards the stage, everybody's cracking up.
Right.
It's funny.
They think it's a bit.
And exactly. And my angle, I couldn't tell if it was real or not. And also, even if it was real, I didn't think that he would slap him that hard. They're both actors. They've probably done lots of bits like that in their life. It just looked really good.
Yeah.
And so everybody's cracking up. And if you think about it, there's a lot of interactions with the crowd throughout the night. And it's normal for them to invite the people on the stage, for them to go out into the crowd. And so it just felt like a normal bit. It was really funny.
Yeah.
As soon as Will Smith sat down and he said what he said, the minute he said the F word, you knew that it was real. Because the Oscars, they're not going to they're not going to script something that has that language in it.
Right.
And so immediately everybody just started looking around. And then he says it a second time, and I could hear everybody around me just gasp.
And that second time had a real, I mean, the first time was like, oh God, this is serious. But that second time had a little extra oomph in the tone of it.
Wow.
And then you see the close up, the lip quivering. I mean, you can't see that because you're from behind, but when you see it on TV, you're like, oh yeah, there is no way. I mean, hey, he's winning Best Actor, but there's no way that this is not real.
Totally. Yeah. And actually, like where I'm sitting, there's some TV screens around too that show the broadcast.
Yeah.
And so everybody around could hear him, and we were looking at the screen to see his face. And so, like, to kind of give you some reference, I was in the same row as the actresses who played the Serena Williams twins.
Oh, wow.
The sisters. They were to my left, and then a couple of people were 2 rows in front of me, like Lily James, Jacob Elordi, the Haim sisters, just like random people scattered about, and everybody's just looking around, like, what is going on? It was silent, dead silent in there. And something that happened after Chris Rock introduces the nominees, it cuts to the TV screen and it shows scenes from each movie.
Yep.
And during this time, it gets kind of dark in the theater. When it gets dark, everybody's just staring like, what's going to happen? So Chris Rock actually comes to the front of the catwalk. He kind of approaches Will and Jada, and he stands out his hand to try to like politely say like, I'm sorry, or like confronting him in a non-confrontal way, I guess.
Yeah.
And at that time, Denzel Washington runs over. I forget if I don't think Samuel L. came over, but just all these people, I think Bradley Cooper was over there too. Just a lot of people came. It was like a little cluster.
Right.
Of like 10 people during this 30 seconds of them showing the nominees. And so I don't think this was shown on TV.
No.
But at that time, everybody's like glued, like, is there going to be a fight? Like, what's going on? Luckily, nothing else happened. And then Chris Rock came back on, and that was that. But that next commercial break, it was so awkward. Nobody wanted to stand up. Nobody really wanted to talk. It was just like dead silent, really tense. And it's something like I've never really experienced before.
So when Chris Rock went over, was he trying to shake their hand, or was he just kind of putting his hand out like, I'm so sorry? Like, how did, from your vantage point, how did Will and Jada kind of receive that? Did they totally ignore it? I mean, how did that go?
Yeah, so Chris Rock came up and he didn't try to shake their hand. He was just putting it out like this, like hey, wanting to kind of ease everything. And Will Smith was just like visibly upset, like he wasn't paying attention to Chris Rock. He was sitting in his seats. That's when Denzel came over. He was kind of in between them. So
right.
I actually got to talk to another seat filler after the show, and they were saying that they were closer to that than I was, and he was saying there was still just like a lot of pent up anger. So yeah, it definitely took a little bit to cool him down, but nothing else really happened other than what you saw on the stage.
How was it like? Were you in the seats when Will wins and they give him a standing ovation at the end?
I was, yeah. I was really conflicted because I mean, like I said, I'm at the bottom of the totem pole. So I'm not somebody that's supposed to initiate anything. Right. I kind of just follow whatever the vibe of the night is. I'm not in a position to make a statement. Yeah. And so everybody starts standing up, and I was like, I got to stand up. And so I followed the crowd. I didn't want to like be in case there was a shot. I didn't want to be somebody just sitting around me when people were standing. Yeah. So I just followed along. I didn't know how I felt about it at the time. It just happened so quickly. Like I think everybody's had a day or two to digest it. Yeah. But it was nuts. It went from just being so shocked to what this man did to then standing ovation and applauding. Yeah. What he'd done.
And then obviously, I don't know if you could see, if you were looking at the screens at the time, but there are plenty of clips, after that happened, and he's just back happy-go-lucky, like laughing at the jokes and stuff after leading up to it. And, the biggest thing, like I know he came out and did his, your typical Notes app Instagram apology that is definitely not written by the people that put it out, but
right.
no apology to Chris Rock during his speech, when he apologized to the Academy and whatever else. And then the videos of him dancing, to his song with the Oscar and stuff. And it's just like, what's going on? I mean, I was joking. It's just like, because Will obviously started laughing first at the G.I. Jane joke. And then, guessing by, what we know about his and Jada's relationship, she may have looked at him. It's like, unless you want me to go home with Chris Rock tonight, you better get up there and do something, with their open relationship. It's like, unless you want me going home with Chris Rock tonight, you better go defend my honor or something, or I'm going to go back to August or whoever,
that's so funny.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, like, it's just speculation, and I, have no sort of expertise or anything, but it just seems very clear that their relationship and everything there is very public. It has to be very tough, and there's obviously something a little off. It doesn't mean that it's completely excusable to go do something like that, but I think it's way more than just the joke, which was just kind of a throwaway, like whatever joke. And a lot of people come out and said, and I totally agree, I think there's about a 99.9% chance that Chris Rock had no idea she had an actual condition, rather than just a, something that she was going, like just a style or a fashion thing.
Totally. Yeah. And I think I'm glad you mentioned all that. And that's kind of what's been the aftermath this week, is everybody dissecting anything they possibly could.
Yeah.
And so I agree completely. And like I said earlier, like all these are just speculations. I have no inside information at all.
Yeah.
But what I was kind of feeling, and he kind of alluded to this in his acceptance speech, I felt like he literally became the role of King Richard in that moment.
Yeah, because that's the kind of guy that he was like.
Oh yeah, and he said like King Richard was a defender of his family, and so that's what he was, I guess, trying to do. And so in my mind, actors a lot of times take on the role of what they're playing, and to me it feels like he kind of kept that role, and he's trying, like, I guess that's his motive this time, is like, I'm going to be that guy. Maybe he was just really inspired by what Richard, who he was. Yeah. But you got to be self-aware of where you're at.
Yeah.
When you do
maybe a little like I think a little too inspired. So that was
a little too inspired.
Yeah, I mean, because like I said, I get up early in the morning, so I wasn't watching the Oscars or whatever. Really, the only year that I watched, when Once Upon a Time was in there, because I was super into that movie. I saw 100 times. Really? And I was just like, I don't know, I'm actually gonna like sit down and watch. That's the nice thing about beating out on the West Coast time. It's actually starts and ends at a decent hour, rather than trying to watch it back home. In Ohio on East Coast time, when it goes until it goes 40 minutes over and it's like midnight. It's like, this is terrible. But so I wasn't watching. So when I woke up to 100 messages in Twitter, just crazy with, a brand new meme has been born, I'm like, what happened? And then when I saw,
so you didn't know until the morning after?
No, didn't know until the morning after, because I was asleep, not paying attention at all. And I had some texts and I wasn't really getting the references. Then I go on Twitter, and of course, pretty much the first thing is one of the foreign broadcasts that was uncensored. And I was like, whoa, like, you thought it was a bit, but then when you hear him say the F word twice, which you can't do on TV, I was like, oh my God, this is real. I mean, I was like, whoa.
Yeah. Well, and so because I was going to ask how you saw it and when you first heard about it. So when I was in that room, obviously I was shocked, and almost instantly my phone just starts blowing up.
Yeah.
Because I had posted something on my story that I was going to be there that night. Yeah. And so I didn't know this, but on the live TV broadcast, they muted it.
Oh yeah, they have to dump that stuff, because live TV is on a delay, and it's a big fine, and it's big no. So they
totally.
Yeah, so you had to check out the Japanese and the Australian and all the other broadcasts that had it, because on the American stuff they dump that out.
Yeah. And I've listened to it over and over again, just because honestly for me, like, it still cracks me up And especially Chris Rock's reaction. First off, I want to applaud Chris Rock. I think he handled it like a champ. He definitely could have done something to backfire, either physically or saying something.
Oh, well, the best thing, he's not a big guy. Will Smith is. I don't think physically Chris Rock could have done it. He could have attempted something, but, and you could kind of see with Chris Rock what he said, comedic genius, super quick on his feet. The wheels were turning. He held back.
Yeah.
He probably could have done 5 minutes of just retaliation jokes, which would have cut way deeper than trying to slap Will Smith, which would have done nothing. I mean,
yes, and I'm sure you'll show this video. I'm sure you'll like edit it to show the audience the video.
Yeah.
And when you see him say, "Oh, I could," he stops himself because he had so much content he could have backfired with.
I mean, if he could have just said something like, "Wow, Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me. Greatest night in television history," right? He goes, it's kind of funny that Will Smith just slapped me for making a whatever joke about his wife, when to my knowledge, he never slapped that dude that was throwing his wife's back out or something, crazy.
Totally, he could have said so much.
I mean, I saw one on Twitter. It was just like, wow, if, because I think that guy's name that had the entanglement, his name was August or whatever. And someone tweeted something like, Chris Rock should have been like, wow, if Will's like this in March, just wait till it's August, or can't imagine what he's like in August. Like, if Chris Rock would have said something like that, like the world, like, the internet may have ended.
Yeah.
Al Gore would have been out of business. The internet would have been done. It's like, it's over, man. It's just, that's the mic drop of all mic drops. Like, but you're so right. He had a million things in his head, and what professionalism to gather himself and to, it's like one of the biggest what ifs of all time, it really is.
Yeah. And it's funny because I think we messaged each other about this when it actually happened a few years ago, but the whole La La Land.
Yes. Cause I was such a big La La Land guy, and I was devastated.
Right. Yeah. So that debacle where they accidentally messed up the sheets that had the winners, and then fast forward a few years and now we have this on live television. And so I'm hopefully seeing a trend where people are going to start tuning in live to the Oscars.
Yeah.
And obviously there's all these conspiracies like, they're doing these on purpose. It's staged so that they get more viewership. I obviously don't believe that.
No.
But I hope that from here on out it starts to become, and I hope they take this momentum and they use it to gain more viewership.
Yeah, next thing there's going to be they're going to be like tracking Vince McMahon's private jet, and he's going to be going and talking to the Oscar people. It's just like, oh, what's the mind behind pro wrestling? What kind of storyline is he drumming up with Oscar people?
Right.
Like, there's going to be all kinds of crazy things. Twitter, message boards, everything. It's going to start to go crazy. People are like you said, they're going to try to pick at everything and create some sort of something out of something that's really not there.
Yeah, totally.
So take me a little bit behind the scenes. First off, we have to pay respect to your mom, who is the OG of this, and would always like for 2 or 3 years there would always end up by the right people that would end up on TV or that won an award. She was going viral on Lexington Mom Facebook there for,
it's crazy.
It seemed like every Oscars season, it's like, oh, there's Tammy. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So great respect there. We've already covered, we know. So what that, how you were able to go through your brother, because he works at every, remind me, what exactly does Drayton do and who does he work for? Yeah.
So he works for the Academy directly.
Okay. That's what I thought.
And he's gone through a lot of different roles in his career. The past couple of years, he's been writing a lot for the Academy, writing articles on their website. And he's recently, again, he stepped back into a marketing department there, where he's kind of like, I forget his exact job title, but it's on the creative design vibes, anything like that. He has his hand in a lot of different stuff that the Academy puts out.
Cool.
So he's been doing that. And when you're an employee, like I said, for seat fillers, they have a lot of employees recommend families and friends, because if I do anything stupid, who's going to pay the consequence? It's not going to be me. It's going to be whoever recommended me.
Right. Like you won't
They
ever
can't
be
just
able
bring
to
in
go
anybody
again,
off the streets.
and they could fire him or do whatever.
Yeah, if anybody came out on the off, then they could just do whatever Will Smith did and not have any consequences other than maybe getting arrested.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so like I said earlier, I mean, the Instagram always looks better than what actually is the course of the night.
Yeah.
My favorite thing is to get dressed up, especially with my mom. So my mom got to be a seat filler with me again this year.
Oh, cool.
And so yeah, basically, like, you are waiting until there's any openings in the auditorium, like I said, the first level, and stars. And it's funny because Amy Schumer actually kind of alluded to it this year in the actual Oscars. She had a little bit about seat fillers, which in the past it's tried to be a secret,
right?
And they don't really want people to know what's going on. But I feel like cat's out of the bag now, so I can kind of explain that there are seat fillers at the Academy, confirmed by Amy Schumer. And people, there's a bar in the lobby. There's just people going backstage, bathrooms, going up, talking to everybody. It's a lot of mingling. Yeah. And so when the lights dim, you got to run. You got to find an empty seat. You sit down, and if you're lucky, you get to stay there for a couple commercials. If you're lucky, you'll sit next to some people. It's actually it's pretty mind blowing just looking around and seeing these people that you've watched for a few years on television or in movies. Right.
Yeah. So what's been, I know one year you got a picture with Kobe, which is like an all time, like that's amazing. What have been some of your other interactions or just people that you've seen in passing or whatever? What's that been like?
Yeah. So I've got to probably about 10 people that I have really loved to watch. I've gotten to meet, and it's fun at the Oscars because once you get past the red carpet, there's no press back there. Yeah. There's no people with cameras recording you. You're not going to get like, you don't have to really watch what you say because there's nobody that's going to let it come out. And so they're pretty off their guard. They're really friendly, really nice. They don't have to like worry about how they look or how they talk. And so because of that, they're way more willing to just interact with anybody. Yeah. And there's tons of people there who are producers, writers, like wives of directors. Like there's just people you don't necessarily know immediately who they are. Yep. So I mean, anybody could use that to their advantage. They might think, okay, like I need to be nice to this person. What if he's like the son of a writer, like anything like that. So, I think my favorite has been meeting Kobe. He was leaving the venue, and after you leave the venue or on your way out, there's no paparazzi. And so it's just pretty chill. And so I saw Kobe from a distance, and there's a lot of other like seat fillers are just like random people that were trying to like kind of get his attention, like mostly adults. And he was kind of just saying like, guys, like love you, but I gotta go because wife's waiting for me. Yeah. And then he saw me. I was like obviously a kid. Yeah. And so he saw me and he kind of like gave me a little head nod. He's like, here, I'll talk to you. Because I think that was just his heart. He loved doing it for the kids and people who actually like watched him and were inspired by him. Yep. And so he was super friendly. He let me take a picture with him. I just told him, like, you're one of the reasons why I loved watching basketball growing up. And he just was like super honored, and he had his Oscar there. So like just it was a really cool moment for me watching him my whole life. Yeah. That's
really cool. Oh my
God. Yeah. So Kobe, he was really nice. And like when I say interactions, I mean like 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Yeah. And that's like, and so I interacted with Kobe this past year. I was in the elevator with Jacob Elordi. I don't know if you watch Euphoria.
Oh yeah. Euphoria he's the super tall guy. Yeah, he's
he's Nate. He's like the crazy big jerk.
Yes.
It's like an awful dude.
Yes.
So he came in the elevator. So I'm attached to a hotel that's like right next to the venue. Yep. And since I have access to it, it's kind of where all the stars go. Gotcha. And after the show, my mom and I went up to our room. We kind of just like changed out of our really fancy stuff, and then got back in the elevator to go down to the lobby to kind of like get a drink at the bar or just get some food or whatever.
Yep.
And Jacob Elordi walks in, and I see him from a distance kind of coming towards the elevator.
Yeah.
And there's a lot. I mean, first off, he's just an absolutely gorgeous human being. He's so attractive and he's so tall.
Yeah.
And so you just naturally, your eyes go to him. And also in that moment, I've watched Euphoria. And so I know he's kind of like a scary dude. He's like really aggressive, angry, manipulative in the show. And so I was like, oh my gosh, it's like Nate from the show. And then he walks in, and we were the only guys in the elevator at the time. There's like probably 6 other girls.
Yep.
And so he kind of like looks over at me, like he gives me a little head nod and smile, because it's like, you know, we're the only guys in here.
You're just like broing out, like, hey, this is a great ratio. If we could keep this ratio up for the rest of our lives, good.
Right, which he probably had that ratio the rest of the night for him. Not for me, but yeah, totally. And so just initially I was like, this dude, he's super nice. He's like initiating a smile. Like most stars wouldn't do that.
Right.
And so I just like looked over after a couple of seconds as we were going down, and I said, I binged every Sunday, is what I told him. And he got really excited, and he like shook out his hand, and he's like, hey, I'm Jacob, nice to meet you. And he just asked like what I liked about the show. And then I told him my girlfriend was really into him. And he goes, oh man, I'm sorry for you. Just like totally joking. He's like such a nice dude. Like I feel like he'd be somebody that I would just want to be friends with. That's cool. And then he was nice enough to take a video for Emily.
Oh, wow. Boyfriend of the year right there.
I don't know. I don't know what made me think to let an absolutely gorgeous Hollywood star hit on my girlfriend, but I figured she would handle it well. And
there you go.
Jacob was an awesome dude. So those are my 2 kind of like main interactions that I've loved.
Yep.
I haven't interacted with anybody who was rude. I haven't seen anybody that like you would think is super nice that actually is not very nice.
Yep.
Maybe Will Smith now. I mean, I'm second guessing. So I guess those are like my main ones. It's just like mesmerizing to see some of these people in person. Timothy Chalamet was like probably 10 feet away from me.
Wow.
And Lily James, like I said, was 2 rows in front of me. Every time she'd get up and turn around, I was just like, my eyes were locked on her.
Yeah, you're like,
and oh yeah, and that's the thing is like everybody looks better in person than they do on these photos that you see of the red carpet. Like I was expecting them to kind of not be as attractive, but it's just like really awesome. It's a really cool atmosphere. It's just everybody's celebrating, super happy, and you can just feel the life and like all the love that's around.
That's cool. That's really awesome. Yeah, I've gotten a little experience when I've done some interviews with some celebrities. Like I interviewed Maggie Q in person down in Miami, which was really cool.
Oh, wow.
That was like my first time like meeting like a real like celebrity, like a movie star, like that. Or this was over Zoom, but I interviewed like Gerard Butler, which was really cool. So like even just being on a Zoom call with him, sitting here in my room, and he's looking at my, my little license plate with my, Joe Vore Pod. Like it was just really cool, interviewing him for a movie. So yeah, it's it's something. It's really weird, they're just people, but when you've watched them and you see, what they're capable of with some of these characters, it's crazy. It's a funny thing.
Totally. And for me, it's been like a pretty humbling experience, because like I've found myself even this past year when it's kind of like really embarrassing and pathetic, but when you're getting ready for the show the morning of, I'm like putting on my bow tie, just like all these scenarios start to come in my mind, like what if I like see this guy, or like what's the interaction going to be with this person, as if like these people know who I am,
right?
Or if like I have any importance in the Oscars when I'm at the very, very, very bottom of the totem pole. And it's just like, how funny is it that I'm playing all these scenarios through my mind, and it like goes to show that we put these people kind of on a higher pedestal. When I get to actually like the very few people that I have like shook hands with, they're completely normal people. And they're so like, a lot of them are genuine. And I'm like, why did I hype this up to be something that's like a huge deal? Like
Right.
He's not like, they're just human. And that's like kind of been my biggest takeaways from going a few times is people, they're like the same height as me. They're the same. They have the same type of voice. Like everybody's just on the same level.
Right.
When you actually get to interact.